Hello.
Hello, hello.
All right. Excellent. We're live, so there we go. We have
Somehow
achieved the
today we
bare
did it.
minimum that's taken for a YouTube channel. Well, even threw up the 13-second, like barely 13-second opening because I'm just like I don't have time for the cheerfulness of that. Not on daylight savings time day. And so, really quick, we've got people in the chat. We've got Andrew from Gady's Toys. When there's trouble, you know who to call. Only if you need it fixed with a crowbar and a tarp. And then I'm your girl. Otherwise, no. Um, Derek Hoover, Titans. Derek Hoover, I'm so jealous of. He found a gem at Walmart yesterday. All I
Yeah, and it
found was in
looks
my.
great.
It looks so good. All I found at my Walmart, Derek J. Hoover, was the My Buddy doll, and we all know that if you buy that and bring it into your house, it will come alive in the night and attack you like a poltergeist clown doll. So
Like you do.
yeah, no intro today. I had the finger on the button. I'm like, nope. Hello Kenzo, lovely to see you. Do it. Just show up, knock on the door, like, give me the doll, bitch. Take it and then leave. This is what you deserve for holding it hostage. Anyhow,
You throw on the rogue cosplay. You throw in some like hand over the doll, sugar. You
oh,
know,
if he showed up at most people's houses in his rogue cosplay, they would just be like, "Take whatever you want." Um, I 100% like do not chase gay men anymore. But if I did, Andrew would be like number one on the list of gay men I would fall hopelessly, helplessly in love with. And be like, why doesn't he like me back? Isn't my love enough? It'd be my 20s all over again. Um, so, that's a little bit more than most people wanted to know, but screw them. Well, no, not literally, but yeah. Hello, Met with Card. Lovely to see you. I know, right? Right.
you
Anyway,
know what? It's early. There's time.
well, it's also Walmart. What do they call it when it's like it's exclusive but not forever? It's like it's an
Oh, a timed
exclusive.
exclusive.
Yeah, so eventually the loyal subjects plans to roll it farther out, which they did with Strawberry Shortcake and Rainbow Bright, and then we were able to find them at favorite retailers such as Amazon, Big Bad Toy Store, eBay, for an affordable price instead of like, give me $1,700 for the gem doll.
You know, I heard if you find stuff in stock at Entertainment Earth with a code like SPP Toys, you can save 10%. That's
Heck
called
yeah,
shilling.
that's showing for sure. And when it pops up on Amazon, don't think that I won't be using my affiliate code that I get a percentage of a
Ooh.
commission of anytime you buy things. I won't
Toys
be
cost
taking it
money,
out.
people.
Toys cost money. Yeah. And the only reason most of us are doing anything on YouTube that do toys or coloring books is so we can feed the habits.
Do what?
Good morning, Stanley's Toy Channel. Lovely to see you. Good morning, Berdazzle. I think that's how you say it. Berdazzle?
I like Berdazzle.
Yeah. It's very dazzling. So welcome. Thank you. Good morning. Anyway, so we're gonna again, it's kind of turning into a DC sort of month. But again, this is from the Standards and Practices reproduction of several different DC style guides from the 80s, starting with the 82 one through 86. I'm pretty sure there were 86 pages in there. I scanned it, scanned a few pages, and then cleaned it up and then sent it to Chris Plastic. He printed it. So we're going to color pages from that. Chris very much understands me and was just like, how about some Titans? So I picked two Titans pages for us. I probably, because of all the sky and background, may not finish this one. But if I don't, I've got this Titans page for next time when Chris comes back. Because Chris comes back all the time. If you like Chris, this is the second place you can find Chris.
Actually, I think this may be the first.
The first. You did content yesterday. I just
I
watched
did do content yesterday.
before we jumped on here. I was watching your joke. There's a lot of Joker in it,
It's 50% Joker.
which is how McFarlane wants it. So
You
thanks.
know, I'll never have to talk about NFTs again with the license change. So
Oh my god,
yes.
right? Mattel is like, we're getting into the brave world of licensed NFTs.
You know, actually, they do NFTs, but I hope they don't do DC NFTs.
They're just like, we just took over from McFarlane, and there's like a really bad like paste over, and you can still see part of the graphic from McFarlane's under it. Mattel is just like, we'll just do this really quick and cheaply, because if we do it this way, they may not even realize that it's not McFarlane anymore. I mean, I know a few people who trade NFTs, and they're not the brightest people.
If you watch my channel, you know I have them.
Oh yeah, I've seen them in your comments, and again, I stand by my statement. They're not the brightest people. And I mean that in the nicest way you can possibly say somebody's not the brightest. I mean, I'm just,
you know, Ryan Dole of Gotham City Tonight, good friend of both of ours, I think. Um,
probably this week.
said, you know, McFarlane DC collectors are the Snyderverse of toy collectors.
It's funny because it's true. Yeah, I don't know. I understand it's not that I don't understand them. Like, somebody was like, you just don't understand. If you did, and I'm like, no, I understand. I think the problem is is that I don't, it doesn't feel real.
Well, and it's not. It's 100% not. I don't know who's trying to tell you they are because they're not.
Like, it's not a real thing. Like, unless I can take, and this is sort of my thing also with crypto. If this ever changes, I will change my position on crypto. But until I can take my crypto coins and go to Walmart and buy a gem doll, like I'm Derek Hoover, I'm not gonna believe it's not a real form of money, because you can't buy anything with it. So like, yeah, I mean, people are like, you can buy things on the internet that are also not real. So if you can only use it to exchange for stuff on the internet that is also not a physical thing that you can put your hand on, it feels like a big shell. It feels like multi-level marketing for boys. I'm, like, I don't, and like, again, it may one day change where you can take cryptocurrency and go to McDonald's and get a Happy Meal, and then I'll be like, I was right about where it was before, but now that's not where it's at. So anyway, no offense to anyone who buys crypto. If so, I'll be debuting an NFT shortly that says, "Give me your money for nothing." And I'll have like a picture of a smiley face on it. So
You'll be rolling out a line of Alice and Troy Retro Toy Princess black and white
exactly,
NFTs that you can color yourself.
100%. Let's see, and then Hoover has called out the soup of hair. So anyway, Brick, they are not. These are the Jose Luis Garcia Lopez update pages from 1985. I did not print out the Perez ones because I wanted to save this for another time when Chris comes. So, because I love Perez, as you know. So I wanted to start with these and then do the Perez later. Yeah, I want my hour back too.
Yeah, ours does
So
too,
here's the
Brick.
good question, Brick. So there's a Bitcoin ATM, and this is me being like, because I mean, if depending on your answer to this, I might suddenly be like, Bitcoin's not the worst. So can you go to the Bitcoin ATM and get money out that you can then go to like Orange Julius and get an Orange Julius drink? Or are all the Orange Julius's gone and it would be like Jamba Juice or something?
I think it will like load it to your account, like to a
Okay.
debit card or something, but
Okay. And then can you use the debit card to buy a thing?
I assume so.
Okay, so if you can do that, then it seems less sus. It's just you keep hearing all these people getting ripped off in crypto coin by the Hot Tula girl. And I watch a lot of CoffeeZilla content where everyone's always getting ripped off by crypto, fake money,
Logan Paul's there to take all your cash.
basically. I mean, as though he hasn't already taken most of our souls.
Ugh.
I tried to watch Logan Paul one time. I'm just like, this is not good. And I apologize. It's a little dark over here because I did not turn the other lamp on. There we go.
I have to comment on something that's not DC for a moment, if you don't mind.
Sure, that's fine.
We're seeing plenty of reviews of the Club Grayskull exclusive hero.
It's true, we are.
And not a single person has answered, is he strong? Is he fast? Is he fresh from the fight?
That's a good point. Like, is he? And why aren't they answering this? Which reminds me, I should probably go watch that video Jay dropped this morning.
Right. And Jay commented, showing it next to his hero from the classics line.
Yeah.
And he didn't answer, does it make his hero ordinary?
Of course he didn't. I mean, he probably isn't even old enough to get that reference. Okay. Right. And really quick, sort of on this topic, Brick. Agreed. So here's this is I love them both for different reasons. Here's the thing. There's a reason you get Jose Luis Garcia Lopez to do your style guide because he is very uniform. Everything is very there's a standard, right? Which is what a style guide should be. Perez draws everyone differently. Everyone has a different face. Everyone has really distinct facial features. Like if like Perez, especially with Titans, there would be whole episodes, whole issues where they were all basically in plain clothes, out of outfit, out of uniform. And you could still tell. I mean, technically, like it's really easy to tell Cyborg and Changeling and Raven and Starfire just based on certain features. But like when it was Wally West, and you could tell the difference between Wally West and Dick Grayson when they were out of costume, even if there were no colors to tell you one's a redhead, one's got dark hair. Same with when he was doing the Justice League, his Black Canary, his Wonder Woman, they had different facial looks. Perez sort of based people off people he knew, like his Tarot, like who had a really distinctive teeth and nose and facial shape, was based on a friend of his wife, Carol. His Wonder Girl started out based on Marie Osmond, which you can see if you look back on the earliest issues of New Teen Titans. And then over time, she evolved to have her own unique face that wasn't based on anyone as Perez grew as an artist. So I liked, as a kid, like who was still hoping that I could, when one day draw comics. I really liked that about Perez. I really liked that everyone had their own look. And even Cyborg, of course, had the metal bits, but there was the issue where Donna Troy gets married, and there's no villains or anything. Everyone's in plain clothes. And Changeling uses Mento's helmet to make Cyborg not look like not have metal bits. So he could just sort of be normal. Perez used different, like you could tell the difference between Mal Duncan's face and Cyborg. So he didn't even when he was drawing people of color and like he didn't default to the same nose or the same lip shape or the same sort of the stereotypical people things do, especially with people of, and I think part of that is Perez was Puerto Rican. So like I think a lot of his desire was to get some real representation in there because he himself, probably more than once saw some caricatures of, people from his ethnic background where it was just really not cool or, just really boring. So that's what and that's sort of the difference. But, Jose Luis Garcia, it's very clean. It's candy coated in a way. And, there's a place for that. And I kind of like it. I think when you're talking toys, I think his art works better for like, the front of a card back or whatever. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
I'll allow it.
Yeah. Hello, Alex. Lovely to see you this morning. I hope you're doing well. So this is not comic related. Well, not subject of today related, but this came in the mail yesterday. So, it was something I ordered about a week ago from Amazon. I got it cheap because, as you can see, it's a little bent.
Sure.
So it was much cheaper than the $12.99 MS manufacturer suggested retail. And I ordered it like a week ago. I did my last big Amazon order for a while. And now it just all has to show up. So, but it's cheaper than the one I'm going to Portland either at the very end of this month or beginning of next month. And I checked and none of the pals had it. And they couldn't order it for me because apparently it's a little older. So it's not, these things that guess don't print there's not as big of a demand for adult coloring books based on Back to the Future. Which does make oh sorry.
I was gonna say I'd assume Pals would be the perfect market for that.
Yeah, it really would be, but it's Pals will get 2 or 3 of stuff like that and then it sells out and then it's like you can't really replace it. So and like in a year I could probably go in there and get it when the people who bought the 3 or 4 copies that they got say, oh, I'm not gonna actually use this and bring it back. I bought quite a few used books from Pals that maybe have 2 or 3 pages colored because it's like, oh, I don't like that page anyway. Or in the case of The Nightmare Before Christmas, one of the colored pages is almost exactly identical to a page that I colored from a 1993 kids color. Because a lot of times with the Disney books, they'll just take old art and sort of fancy it up a little bit. So but it's kind of cool. I'm gonna at some point there will be a flip through on the channel and a coloring from it. But I thought it was pretty cool that I was on with Dre and Dave a few Fridays back talking old TV shows that shouldn't be remade and jokingly one of them was like, oh, if there's a Back to the Future coloring book. So there is. And joke is on them. So I'm gonna ping Dave and be like, hey, remember? Yep, here it is. And then probably because at some point I'm gonna have both of them on. But they also do things solo, so I'll also probably have them both on individually. So maximize it. So, speaking of YouTube content, Chris, you had your new Joker video.
Yes.
What else you got coming up?
Well, I have. I think I'm gonna try to do a supersized superpowers unboxing because I have the
Ooh.
last two waves and the not really crowdfunded wave to
Right.
unbox.
That's
Oh.
such a weird thing. What exactly happened with that? Because there are a bunch of people who were like, thanks for crowdfunding it. I can just buy it, loser. And I'm like, that's a really weird hot take.
So, I that crowdfund got extended like twice, and then at the last minute, the like threshold to fund it dropped significantly. I wonder if like GameStop came in and said, "We got you,"
right.
and so people who wanted that set, like, hey, you got it, right? So why be mad?
Well, and also, like, though, I guess the other side of it, though, is the people who did crowdfund it and got it. The people who are coming in and like, thanks for doing it. I can get it anyway without crowdfunding. It's like, it's such a weird hot take. Like, okay, so you can buy it too. Like, it's not like they paid it's not like there's a huge discount between the crowdfund and buying. I mean, there will be eventually if they clearance the stuff, but it's pretty much was priced at retail. So it's not like
Right.
it was even like spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for this crowdfund and then it shows up at retail cheaper, which I think is what people used to get mad about when Motu Classics would show up at like Big Lots, was it was severely cheaper than what they had paid for. And it would tend to be figures that some people hadn't got. Like theirs never showed up or it ran out before they could buy it through the website, and then it would show up in cases and they'd be like, I can't believe it. And it's like somebody at Mattel's warehouse just accidentally sent the wrong boxes of stuff to Big Lots. Like, you need to blame the warehouse. That's not, of the many things that we can accuse their former brand manager of being guilty for, that's not one of them. Good morning, Rolando. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're having a good day so far. And if not, I hope it gets better.
There you go.
All right, so I did the blue sky and the logo. And let's see. I'm trying to decide what I want to do for because there's like this big circle behind them, which should probably be yellow, which will be fine because none of the people in it have enough yellow where the circle is, if that's going to make, like be a bad design choice. But then I need to figure out what to do with the city. And I think I just figured it out, so we're good. But for that, I need to go into the big case. There we go. I'm gonna use some amethyst for this. Not the Princess of Gemerald, the color. That's one of the things I want to do once I get everything set up in my studio, because in one of my boxes I have the Showcase Presents of Amethyst Princess of Gemerald.
Nice.
So I'm going to find a couple of my favorite pages, scan them, and turn them into coloring pages. That was, as a kid, one of my favorite comics. It always feels weird that every time they try to bring it back now, they try to like make it grittier or update it. And it's like, yeah, I think the original concept still, in my humble opinion, feels really timeless. So it's just weird that they're like, we have to make it super fancy. Let's make it like she's in a video game. Let's make her have a baby. That pissed me off. Like, that was so dumb. But whatever.
I don't think I've seen Amethyst since the Wonder Comics Young Justice run, but I'm not as hip to the comic world as I used to.
Yeah, I think she has disappeared into comic book limbo again. Because quite frankly, it's like Amy Reeder Hadley. No, she's Amy Reeder again. Like had a really cool take on her, and I love her art. But it didn't honestly quite line up with what was happening in Young Justice. And then it all just sort of ended.
You know what? As dumb as giving Tim Drake the codename Drake was, I was just happy to have Connor Kent back on some level.
Yeah, there is that. Like, yeah, the Drake thing was just dumb. Like, whatever, guys. And it's like, yes, we all know that that's what Marv Wolfman was, like, paying homage to when he named him Drake. But do we really need to make it quite so obvious? But apparently some people do. Some people do. It's like we're back in the golden age and we've got Marston Wonder Woman names. Like, oh, the Mask. She fights back against abusers, and in real life her husband is an abuser and his name is Brutus Close. Nobody will ever get that. Dean Sourpuss. Sorority Girl Gel OC. Like, yeah. Oh, and my favorite, Etta Candy. She's fat. She eats a lot of candy. Tee.
Get it?
Yeah. Her cousin, her dad was mint candy. I forget her mom and brother had names like that too, though.
Was Mint Candy Irish?
Probably. I mean, she was a redhead, so obviously, in 1940s comic books, redhead would have equaled Irish descent. Because again, Marston, for all of his progressiveness, was not fully progressive about all the things. Oh my goodness. I'm glad you're here with me today, Chris, on this daylight savings time where I feel like hammered crap because they stole my hour.
I know. I'm sitting here going like, I had so many plans. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah, right? And it's like they keep taking my time. It's like, I want it back. You don't need it. Daylight savings time is pointless at this day and age. Nobody plants crops literally anymore. Oh, we're screwed. Anyway, let's see. Okay. Yeah, I liked what Perez initially did with Etta Candy because it took sort of the more stereotypical parts of it. Like, I felt like it was a good way to sort of bring the character into a modern age, but unfortunately, and Gail Simone tried to get back to that, where it's like she was competent, but she was also, she was Wonder Woman's friend, and she was like a good person, but she had a sense of humor. Like it takes a while whenever you take over a comic book like Gail Simone had done, especially right after a reboot, where so much had just been ignored and like sort of crapped on for years. And I thought Gail Simone did a really good job of bringing Steve Trevor back in, bringing Etta Candy back in, not completely disregarding all of the continuity since Crisis, but sort of trying to make it all work. And I felt like she got a really good balance of Etta Candy as competent, efficient, good at her job, but also she had heart, she had a sense of humor. And it just seems like too many. Since the New 52, it just seems like they want her to be, like Amanda Waller Jr. or something. It's like that's just not what the character has ever been. There's got to be a little bit of heart to her, and I never get any sense of the heart from her. Some of that, though, is a lot of what reset her was Greg Rucka, and I'm just unfortunately not a fan of his take on Wonder Woman. Like, he's got a really specific idea of what Wonder Woman and her world is supposed to be, and I love that for him, but I don't enjoy his work. So, lots of people do, and I am happy they have a Wonder Woman comic that fits their vibe, but it ain't mine. So, but I've got a gazillion back issues of my Wonder Woman, so for all those people, I'm actually happy they have something they like. So, see, kids, it's really easy to not be bitter about things like that. You just let the kids have what they want and enjoy what you've got that was yours that you did like. It's funny, like every president for decades has tried to make it go away. And Shrub made it shorter. And like of the many things that he didn't do, that I'll say that is one thing I've always given him credit for. And if somebody could just make it go away, I would be eternally grateful. So, because it's just I just don't see the point of it, and it throws everybody off. I used to say, well, only if they do it in the fall when I get my time back. At this point, I just want it to go away so that I don't have to every couple months adjust, because it throws me off. I can't speak for everyone, but it throws me off for like 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
So it would just be nice if like we made it go away, because it just doesn't. The original function of it is no longer applicable. It's like Moby. There's nobody who needs it anymore. Why is it still here? Just make it go away. And speaking of Moby, Space Ghost died. And that is one of, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, there are so many good gags from Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I mean, him asking the Foo Fighters if they are with or against Foo
will live rent free in my head forever.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and just I mean that, like Matt still at least once or twice a week when he comes across the Nobody Cares Moby from Space Ghost will send it to me. I mean I saw that back when it was not sort of old, because I'm that old, but and I remember laughing because Moby, my disdain and dislike of him has been, and since the first time I heard his music, it only got stronger with the Natalie Portman situation. But yeah, so it's really sad, like, because he's just a genuinely nice guy. From everyone who's met him and had to interact with him as sort of like at convention, sort of on the paid side of it, where you're paid to like be there and sort of help these celebrities through their day. Even people in those situations have had nothing but lovely things to say about them. So it's too bad. But he also was sort of older, so Gen X and elder millennials, we need to get used to this, because we're at that age. They're at that age. It's going to be a little bit more of this in the coming year or two. A lot of our heroes pass to the next side. And really quickly, Andrew. Yeah, exactly. And that was so much the style then. I look back and I'm just like, all the comics look like that and they're all horrible. Right. No, Moby had him on his show and Moby was talking and he's like, nobody cares, Moby. Nobody cares. I have not read any of his Wonder Woman, and I read the descriptions of it because every time a new writer or relaunch happens, I'll pop in and be like, oh, should I go back to monthly and start picking this up every month? And I read the description of what he had planned, and I'm just like, we've got another high concept take of it. And it's like, I'm good. Like, I'll be fine. I don't need another high concept Wonder Woman tale. Like, Wonder Woman doesn't need high concept. She needs you to read back issues of her stuff when she, like, you need to go back and reread like the first 2 years of Golden Age stories. You need to read the Perez run. I think most writers taking over Wonder Woman should also probably read the post 1 year later stuff with what is it, Heinberg, I believe was his name, and then Gail Simone through the Odyssey, and then stop. Don't read the Odyssey; it's terrible. But read through those because those are some of the most successful times in Wonder Woman comics, and that's time where a lot of fans had really sort of a positive outlook about the direction and what was going on, and there are some really strong stories, and figure out why it is that those were really popular times. And instead of creating a new supervillain for her to fight that's her new arch nemesis, find somebody in her supporting cast that hasn't been rebooted. Like, we don't need anyone's fresh hot take on the cheetah ever again. No matter how hard he tries, Veronica Kell is never going to happen, Rucker. Like, it's not. She's never going to be a villain that anyone likes but you. And nobody likes that character. Nobody. And she is the fetch of Wonder Woman villains. And like, she has so many villains that she's fought for so many years that haven't been, didn't get rebooted after Crisis, or like barely registered, like that you could really easily go in and build up that have some history with Wonder Woman. So them suddenly becoming her arch nemesis makes sense. Yeah, so I don't know. It gets tedious at and this is really common if you've read Wonder Woman comics for any length of time, starting with when Ross Andrew left as the artist, and then Denny O'Neil and Sikowski and Giordano came in and made her mod. It's like, since then, every 2 or 3 years, she gets a reboot with a new direction, and everything is changed. And it just, I don't know.
Like, I appreciate that Denny O'Neil apologized for that.
He did apologize. And the funny thing is, I don't hate the mod era.
Yeah.
I quite enjoy the mod era when it's a limited time frame. I think if I had been reading it at the time and it's like, this is just who she is now, that would have made me mad. But I think, like, if they had plotted it out, well, for 2 years she loses her powers. Here's a storyline. At the end of it, she gets her powers back, and this is, like, that I think would be different. Like, if somebody were to come in and do a legitimate, let's do the mod Wonder Woman. Here's, here are the story beats. Here's how it starts. Here's where it ends. Here's why we do this. Here's what she gets as a character out of it. I think it would work. And also readers would know, like, this is part of it's like when Superman went into space in like the 80s, and he was like in the Gladiator, and that's where we get like World War World and all of that stuff. Like, you know, like that worked because we knew Superman's not going to be in space in a tunic and a belt forever. No, we never need another Wonder Woman versus a military storyline. It's just kind of people playing out their weird stuff. Like, create your own character if that's a storyline you want. But like, yeah, I don't need another. I don't need the Amazons should never be like murderous monsters. Like, that's not at all what the Amazons are. So we don't need another story where, you know, like, there's always, going back to Marston, there's always been stories where one or two Amazons will go rogue. But overall, the Amazons are a force for good. So we don't need any story where the Amazons are like, you know, like, let's take over the world. Like, that's not their mission. Their mission was always like, you know, showing how like peace and like science and kindness and compassion can like change the world for the better. That was their mission. And I get because of the segregationistness of it, you know, like Island of Only Women. I get, you know, there's a dichotomy, but that's definitely something you can like sort of explore, but it's not like the next step to, oh, they're going to destroy all of mankind. It's like, no, they're segregated like that because of penance that the gods are making them do. Again, it's people not really understanding are just not caring about the lore and wanting to do their own story, which is fine. That's why you create your Christy Marks, who did Gem and the Holograms. She was one of the main writers of that. She did a great series for one of the Marvel imprints in the 80s called Sisterhood of Steel, which was essentially like militant Amazon society. And that worked because she was not, you know, obviously she's riffing on the concept of Wonder Woman to a degree. But it works because she can do stuff like that. And you can do stuff like that in your own creation that's sort of riffing from something. Like, I don't know. It seems like in the world of where we get like, say, 50 Shades, is it 50 Shades of Grey? That's
Yes.
right. Which just started out as Twilight fan fiction. It feels like in comic books, we're not getting enough of the fan fiction people getting to create their own thing. Instead, we're getting them stuck on the actual characters and doing fan fiction. Whereas if they had to go create their own thing, some of the story flaws would go away. So, that's my hot take. Yeah, different show, exactly. Yep. Well, I think some of that with the cheetah is because she's in the style guide. She's the only Wonder Woman villain that was in the style guide. And I think for that reason, she's the only one people really know. But my counterpoint to that is if you are writing comic books, you need to read some back issues and you need to like figure out what's there.
You know, for all the sins of later Jeff Johns, one of the things I loved is how he would deep dive into the lore of his characters.
Yeah, there are a lot of things Jeff Johns did that I completely think suck, but I do appreciate that he tried to, if he created a new character, he tried to tie it to an existing concept. If he you know, like he tried to make it all fit. He tried to make it all cohesive. He tried to not just create something brand new without it having its place. And to a degree, I think that's ultimately what his inability to ever just create something from whole cloth that wasn't tied. You know, like his Crimson Adventure he did. she was really cool, but I don't think she ever quite caught on because she was the Crimson Avenger. And for some people, like, there's just the one. Whereas if he had made her a new character, I think she probably would have hit a lot bigger. Hello, 3-star draw. Lovely to see. We're just sitting here, coloring, talking comic books. We haven't even gotten to the Teen Titans yet.
We've talked briefly off air before we realized it should be what's on air. What's your take on Mattel taking over the DC license?
So I am pretty optimistic. I think, well, one, and other people have pointed this out, so this isn't a unique thought I have had. One, Mattel has enough money behind them that they can take risks with the lineup. Like a company like, say, McFarlane, you don't necessarily get as many peg warmers and as much forgiveness as a company like Mattel does. So I get, like when we do talk about, oh, McFarlane only does Superman and Batman, it's like, well, he's got to get on the shelves. I think he could be a lot better about character diversity, especially in superpowers. But I get the business reason of it. It's like doesn't have, like Mattel, like it takes a while for companies to pull a Mattel product from you like stop ordering Mattel products. Because if you sort of pull the trigger too quickly at Mattel on like, oh, we're not going to order that thing anymore, they can be like, great, you're not getting Barbie anymore. They have a couple brands where it's like, if they were to say, oh, no more Hot Wheels for you. So Mattel is able to get toy lines that aren't doing quite as well and at retail a lot longer because they have bargaining with retailers because they do have products that 100% are going to sell. Like every Barbie doll that comes out is not going to sell, but so many of them do that retailers are willing to forget the 2 or 3 Barbie dolls that peg warm or don't sell or don't move quickly. So they have that. Like with DC, like Mattel's going to get a lot longer and get more leeway. And they also have more, to my understanding, have more retailers, access to more retailers than McFarlane does. So, like overall, I think they're going to have the ability to go a little bit deeper. My concern is with Mattel is their, what I will say for McFarlane is because he's from comic books, he does have a little bit more of an appreciation of comic books and sort of why certain characters will land when others won't. I fear that whoever's at Mattel is not going to get that. And so we're not going to get some of the deep dives that McFarlane was willing to. When McFarlane did take a chance, he would often take a really cool chance. Then maybe it was only going to appeal to like 7 people in the entire world because it's such a deep cut. But he's still willing to do that because he's a comic book guy. Mattel is going to be like, who the hell is that? Like, they might give us a lot of women, but they're only going to give us, if they give us Black Canary, her most iconic outfit. We're less likely to get 1980s headband, jumpsuit, Black Canary, as opposed to fishnets, black jacket, blonde, the one we expect.
Right.
And so that's sort of hit, that way. Mattel also, depending on what direction they go, probably won't use it depends though, because they're WWE, they do the face paint. And those tend to work pretty well. All the companies that do the sort of the real face paint look, in general feel like Mattel does a lot better. Their wrestling figures usually look pretty good. So
I keep looking at the new attorney at Evil Lynn as a
Yeah.
hopeful figure. Like, this is what I want the line to be.
But then I also see the Minecraft figures and go, oh, that's going to be the superpowers segment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, there's the whole. There are pros, there are cons. I mean, if they were to do superpowers, I do have faith that whoever's at Mattel would 100% get a copy of the style guide that we're coloring pages from and be like, okay, they need to look like this, and these are the only characters we're going to do. And then we'll get 17 golden pharaohs.
So my theory though is that superpowers will go away, and if we get a superpowers line, it'll be based on the new cartoon that's been announced.
It'll be based on what?
There's a new superpowers cartoon that got announced.
Yeah, I mean, we might lose the name superpowers. But also worth noting is the form that Secret Wars is in, that particular buck. Mattel actually owns the rights to that particular body, which is why when Hasbro did retro style figures, they weren't in the Secret Wars form because only Mattel has access. That's why every so often you'll see Mattel drop some figures in that scale so they can retain sort of the ownership of it with that actual body type. So we might get a retro style toy line from Mattel that is actually using the Secret Wars body. So, which would be a choice, but actually that would be one I think a lot of people would dig. They're going to have to be really explicit in explaining, though, that we own this body type. We thought it would be a great opportunity to finally give you some of these characters in this, like in this manner that you could have never got before from any other company. I think if they make it really clear that that's what the thing is, like, I think people will be on board. But I do think with the sort of fan buy-in with superpowers, that they would be dumb not to continue the scale, even if they don't call it superpowers.
Well, I was joking. The solution to that is don't relaunch superpowers. Relaunch the Toy Biz DC superheroes.
Yeah, they could do that for sure. And that particular card style that they use for that was for a while part of the DC marketing and licensing. So Mattel could actually use that look. So probably not. What do you mean you don't know comic books, Kenzo? Ew. That would be really cool. I would like that too. Hello, Adam. How are you this morning? Are you recovering from your rage? Adam got really mad on Clubhouse last night.
Oh no.
Yeah, you guys all need to go watch it because it was quite something to see. And Oz is now able to monetize his content. So go watch it so you can see the moment where Adam becomes the angry Canadian.
Boy, I tell you, I've lost my cool on the Clubhouse. So, I've been there.
So yeah, go watch it, everyone. Go get some AdSense and go see the angry Canadian in action. That's his name now. That's your superhero name, Adam. The angry Canadian.
You wouldn't like me when I get mad. I become impolite.
Right? Yeah. Sort of, yeah. Kind of. But I'm not gonna recap it for you. I'm not that kind of drama channel. That would be hilarious because we don't actually have that in ToyTube. Every other type of YouTube content has the gossip channels who are like, you will not believe what so-and-so said this week. There's probably a lot. So if you like rap battles between content creators about toys, have we got the recap for you? Oh my god, I could probably do and color under it while I'm telling the story. It'd be like Creepshow Art Part 3 or whatever. Whatever happened to her? Anyway. I mean, she got canceled because she turned out to be a stalker, but I mean, I wonder what happened to her because she used to live by me and I would go into Starbucks to get a drink and sit there and eat my cake pop, and she would be sitting at a table in Starbucks filming content. I'm like, what is this loser doing on YouTube? What? People get on YouTube and do stuff? Weird.
YouTube dumb.
Oh my god, whatever. And then I found her content. I'm like, oh my god, that's that annoying girl that was at Starbucks. That I used to make fun of. And she has how many subscribers? Oh my god. So anyway, here we are. 20 years later. Oh my god, that's perfect. Yeah, exactly. But anyway. So yeah, go check it out after the stream, of course. Go check out and see what happened at the clubhouse. And see the debut of the angry Canadian. If I were still drawing, I would turn Adam into a superhero character, the angry Canadian. And then we've got Dole as Wolverine. And then Ken from Toy Connections is out of control. And we could put him like in a mech suit, and then we would have like a three-person Canadian superhero team. That'd be kind of cool. And then Mega J is in Canada, so like he could get a mech suit too, and then he and Ken could like smash fists and become like a Zord or something. Is that what they call them, Zords?
That would be your Power Ranger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
flavor?
I don't know anything about Power Rangers other than the toys in the 90s looks like ass. Unless it was the McDonald's figures. And a lot of dudes are hot for Amy Jo Johnston.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a time.
The time and place for everything. It's called college.
But they'd be a combiner of some kind.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I remember. I just watched Dartherian's video about combiners. That sounds like something I've heard of. So. I could never figure out Starfire's hair.
Yeah, I was just looking at a reference here and just going, nope,
that's not right.
Yeah, it's like, what is happening? Is it like, I mean, it looks like normal hair, and then, like, is it magic hair where it turns into fire, or is it like a, is it like a chemtrail after her? Well, it's not like those aren't really chemtrails. It's just the way the atmosphere works, but whatever.
Good cover.
Yeah, right. Jet streams. That's the word I was looking for. They're jet streams. It's normal. They're disrupting the atmosphere. Anyway. I'm just going to say this is my only statement I'm going to make about the chemtrails. I had a family member who was like, it's the chemtrails doing this and this and this. And I just looked at her and I'm like, funny, I would have thought it's all the methamphetamine that you stuff up into your face constantly. She did not like that. So anyway. And I was like, but anyway, if it was chemicals in the air, what about the chemicals in your nose? And again, that's apparently different. So anyway, that's the last thing I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, there's a weird crossover between people who do things they shouldn't.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we could get crusty old crow. Oh, he could have like a crow suit, like the Vulture, the Vulture from Spider-Man meets Raptor's new suit from G.I. Joe Classified. Yep, and Adam's eyes definitely have to light up red when he gets angry. That's how you know he's angry. Well, it's true, Alex, because most of the time it's not once. Like then you yeah, like for her, like she would go to the bathroom 5 or 6 times in a night to touch it up. No, that's not what they call it. To top it off. No, whatever. I can't remember what the kids were calling it on the streets.
Oh, those kids.
Those kids, man, with their wacky slang. It was very sus, is what it was. This pumpkin orange is working pretty good for most of Corey's hair. Okay, and while we're talking about silly superhero names that Marv Wolfman has come up with, Corey Ander. It's got a hyphen in there.
That's straight out of the Motu playbook.
Yeah, right? And her sister, Commander, she's a evil wannabe dictator. Starfire and Blackfire. It's like nobody calls her Blackfire really in the comics ever. And then their brother was Randar. It's like Wolfman just gave up by the brother. Like, I can't come up with anything else.
At least it wasn't brother.
Right, yeah, brother.
Father.
There's an extra
Father.
apostrophe in there, so we know it's alien.
It is your daughter.
Right. Oh my gosh. But, you know, whatever.
Corey, we don't talk like that. It's just your lisp.
It's just, right? It's just your speech impediment, ma'am. What are you telling these people on Earth about our names? You're so weird. Stop trying to be the lead. Oh, there we go. So it's, I think the secret to Corey's hair is I used a pumpkin orange. Now I'm just going in with regular orange on top of that. And it's kind of giving it that look. She was one of my favorite characters from Teen Titans. Always one of those things where it's like as a kid, when I was reading Teen Titans, I was always like, they just need to make them a cartoon. And then you find out later how many times they came close to becoming a cartoon. And as Marv Wolfman used to say, like every year it would come down to us versus X-Men, and then NBC would be like, never mind, we'll do another 30 minutes of Smurfs.
Smurfs. Ugh.
The Smurf cartoon was like 2 hours when it finally like went away. I stopped watching the Smurfs I loved the Smurfs, but then at some point it was like every year. It's like it was very specific when it started, right? Like there are only this many Smurfs. There aren't different Smurfs. There are no girls. Gargamel made a girl. We have a girl, but suddenly a week later, they've got a grandma. They've got there are like all these girl Smurfs suddenly that never existed before. As a kid, I was like, continuity. So yeah, I guess I've always kind of been like this.
I don't know if I ever really liked the Smurfs, but I sure watched a lot of Smurfs because it seemed like you didn't have a lot of choice at times.
Yeah, well, we only had the 3 channels then, it was like that or like Kissy Fur, whatever Kissy Fur. I had a friend in school and she was like, Kissy Fur is my favorite character. And I remember thinking at that moment, like, she is not my friend anymore. And literally after that, I stopped hanging out with her. And I don't even remember now what Kissy Fur was, but at the time I'm just like, nope, I can't do this. Kissy Fur was like 10-year-old me's movie. I'm out. No Kissy Fur in this world.
Kissy Fur is trash.
Okay. Hello, Largo. Hello. Lovely to see you. Oh my god, I hate when that happens. Alex has the 411. Kissy Fur was a bear. Of course he was a bear. And which is why Andrew has a Kissy Fur fursuit. It all comes back to the eagle, guys. The eagle. Oh my god. He's a boring bear. And a yellow windbreaker. What? Oh my god. Okay. Like, I get it now. All right. I stand by my decision. Good lord. I mean, you guys just Google him and look how boring and average he is. He's just a regular looking, like, Yogi Bear wannabe with yellows. No, it's the little bear. That's the dad.
Yeah, Kissy Fur is the knockoff Boo Boo.
Ew. Okay. And DC Comics did an adaptation issue. What?
It all ties in. It all comes together.
God. Issue 1.
Was Kissy Fur in Crisis in Infinite Earths? Do we know this yet?
Phil Mendez presents Kissy Fur, issue 1, $2 in 1989. Whatever, guys. Okay, it makes more sense though. If it was like 1989, I would have been almost high school age. I would have been in high school. Which makes way more sense why I would be like, if this girl is still into Kissy Fur, I can't be friends with her. So, man. But yeah, apparently DC Comics did a single at the $2 price point for a first issue in 1989. That's got to be like a special. So they just dropped the one and done, and they were out. Even DC was like, we can't make Kissy Fur work.
Stop trying to make Kissy Fur happen.
And then the next week they're like, oh, let's release this another a Phantom Stranger 4-issue miniseries that nobody's gonna read. They tried so hard for so many years with the Phantom Stranger, and it's like, you know, guys, that brief period in the 70s where everyone was reading horror comics is over. He is a supporting character now. Stop trying to make him mainstream. And I don't know. The Phantom Stranger, in my opinion, always worked best as sort of a, you know, he shows up, he's like, oh my god, the universe is going to end if we don't fight the evil. And then he sort of helps, but he's mostly gone.
I could see it quickly turning into, this guy again.
Right. Again.
Oh, I get it, Phantom Stranger.
It's infinite crises. The crisis never ends around here. And then it turns into a wacky 80s sitcom. Yeah. Oh my god, Kissy Fur. It would be really easy to rhyme Kissy Fur in a rhyme and a rap.
Nothing to
I'm
it.
not going to subject any of you guys to that, but like Largo, this is sound, I believe. Yeah, Kissy Fur Zero. The first issue of Kissy Fur had like a tie-in to Crisis that you had to read the issue to find out about. His mom is the Anti-Monitor, Auntie. Auntie. Who's your Anti-Monitor? Dun dun dun. There we go. And we've just written Jeff Johns' next big crossover. He's at home right now watching this, furiously taking notes.
I wonder what Jeff is doing these days. Because he was kind of like part of the DC studio, but I think he got booted when James Gunn took control.
Oh. Wow. I'm acting like I don't have Google pulled up right here. Because I needed to look at Starfire's hair. Oh, Jeff Johns today. In June 2018, John stepped down from his executive role at DC Entertainment and entered into a writer and producer deal with Warner Brothers and DC Entertainment. He opened Mad Ghost Productions, a production company that works on film, television, and comic books based on DC comic properties.
All right.
That probably didn't work out too well.
Oh. On October, this is how we know how it's going and why we haven't heard from him recently. On October 12th, 2023, Johns and a group of colleagues announced at the New York Comic Con that they were forming a cooperative media company called Ghost Machine, which would publish creator-owned comics and allow the participating creators to benefit from the development of their intellectual properties. The company publishes its books through Image Comics, and other founders include Brian Meltzer, Jason Fabuk, Gary Frank, Gary
That's
Frank,
too bad.
Trace Evidence, Brian Hitch, Francis Manipool, and Peter J. Tomasi, all of whom would produce comics work exclusively through the company. That's a bold statement to claim what Gary Frank is doing in this day and age is comics work. John's inaugural work for the company was writing Geiger Ground Zero, a two-issue series drawing by Frank. There's no drawing when Frank is involved. That serves as a prequel to their 2021 miniseries of the same name. Ground Zero would be followed by an ongoing Geiger series, which I bet has been canceled. In October 2022, it was announced that Paramount Television Studios would develop a TV adaptation of Geiger from Johns and Justin Simeon, with Johns writing the pilot, serving as showrunner and executive producing along with Jamie Something from Mad Ghost Productions and Gary Frank.
I mean, that's a who's who of who used to be like the DC Comics heavy hitters.
Yeah. So, anyway. So, yeah, he's not doing anything right now. Poor guy. Oh, we're missing some Prime. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. So Largo sets this all up with Kissifer was secretly a minion of Darkseid. Andrew is female Furies, more like female furries. Alex agreed. We're creating a lot of Kissifer lore, much more than his original creators ever gave him. And then Largo is, Granny Goodness training furries. Yeah, I think a lot of us would probably buy that comic.
Well, it all ties together if you know your Animaniacs, right?
Yep.
Because Ed Asner voiced Granny Goodness in Superman the animated series.
Uh-huh.
And Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. So Fuzzy Wuzzy changed his name to Ed Asner and moved to Hollywood.
That's a good point. Didn't they have Ed Asner on Friends as the naked guy across the street?
Was he?
I think so. And Alex is adding this kernel of wisdom. Geiger is basically their version of DC's GI robot. Oh, Jeff Johns. Anyway. All right, now it's time for Jericho. So I need to look up so I can get all the blue and the purple and stuff in the right place. 1980s. Speaking of characters who were destroyed by multiple writers over time. Oh, Jericho. Poor, poor, poor Jericho. At least Marv Wolfman has stated, though, that whenever they talked him into the Titans Hunt storyline, that he had writer's block so bad that he would have, that like he couldn't come up with anything else. So, but it is really horrible that. And Jericho honestly didn't work after Perez left because so much of Jericho's being mute and only being able to communicate through sign language depended on how good George Perez's drawing was. And not everyone is that good of an artist. So.
Yeah, it's hard to convey a mute character in a static image.
Yeah. So you can definitely tell the difference after Perez left and Jericho. And it's too bad because he's a really cool character. And it's really too bad that they keep in comics ruining the character. Like, he's evil. No, he's not. He was possessed. No, he's not. He's really evil. No, he's not. He's on a data chip.
He's in the internet.
Yeah, again, I enjoyed that Jeff Johns tried to fix a lot of really bad creative decisions. Thank you, Jeff Johns, for bringing back Dove, Dawn Granger. I am grateful for that. But again, like, there's a lot of stuff that just... Sometimes you have to let the character be dead. And I think, unfortunately, Jericho was one of those instances where, like, trying to bring him back didn't quite work, especially because nobody knew. You can't just bring a character back if you don't have a plan for what to do with them when you bring them back. And I think that's all too often what happens. A character gets brought back from the dead, and there are no actual plans for the character. Beyond the typical, I was dead and now I'm alive, I don't know how to deal with the world storyline. It's like, we've seen that one. That's not, you can't, that lasts for like a year. And too often with Jeff Johns, what would happen is he'd bring a character back from the dead in a particular arc, and then at the end of the arc, the character would leave to go find themselves and be forgotten again until somebody brought them back to kill them again in a Crisis on Infinite Earths. Oh, he's dead again. Never mind.
Don't worry, he'll get better. It's comic books.
He'll come back. We'll just reboot everything so that story never happened. I do think that there should be in comics way more like, you want to kill that character? No. Like, no. You need a better story. Because, like, killing characters isn't even a big deal anymore. Like, when Phoenix died, it was a big deal. When Tara died in the new Teen Titans, it was a big deal. Supergirl, The Flash, like, most of the deaths in Crisis, like, hit really hard.
They stuck for a very long time.
Yeah, and it was like a lot of those were really good deaths. Like, I don't mean like, like they were very impactful. Like, like Wally West, like for 20 years, like the bulk of his storyline was always trying to live up to Barry's example. And like Wally West was not a character, like he was not my favorite Teen Titan as a kid. Like when he left and Jericho joined, I was like, oh, Jericho is so much more interesting. Ha. I think I also kind of had a crush on Jericho as a kid.
It was the mutton chops, wasn't it?
He was just so cute and sensitive, and At least how George Perez drew him. Him and Hawk from Hawk and Dove. Those are my two comic book crushes as a kid. Which I think is a big part of like, I mean, I always wanted to be either Wonder Woman, Wonder Girl, or Dove as a kid. And I think some of the Dove thing was partly because I had a little bit of a crush on Hawk. And if you read the comics, you knew that they were intended to be like together eventually. So, but yeah, Jericho Wilson. Well, Joseph Jericho Wilson, son of the Terminator. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I really liked, the Marv Wolfman after Perez left. Ed Barrett. Well, first Jose Luis Garcia Lopez came on for a couple issues and did the origin of Lilith. Helped introduce Cole. Had some lovely art of the Amazons fighting the Titans of Myth. And then Ed Barriato came on, and Ed is he's passed now. He's a really good artist when he had enough time, but like some of his Titan issues look really rushed, and the art's not as good. They should have really given that man more, sort of more fill-in artists here and there so that he could take a little bit more time with some of his issues. But that's not really also something they did back then. Hello, Tony. Tony will be here next week. A little bit of both, Kenzo. In the 80s comic books, part of what helped them, DC especially had a whole slogan that was like, comics are not just for kids anymore. And a lot of them was very much the days of our lives, bringing in the drama, the telenovela. I think Titans toward the end of it got a little too much. But for a long time, that was the deal. So, I mean, that's what we all enjoyed it. It's not like that's what we wanted from our comics. We wanted that ongoing storyline. We wanted subplots. We wanted some depth to the story. And then the trades happened. And then once everything started getting written for trades, like the stories became harder to get actual solid ongoing storylines because they wanted it so that anyone could pick up a trade and pretty much, have an idea of where the story was and easily pick up. And I think a lot of why comic books aren't landing quite as well with some of us old folks anymore is because of that. It's the ongoing story is way too often downplayed so that it will sell well later in trade. Which seems weird because a lot of people really are into, like say Stranger Things. Like people like the serialized story of it, and I don't understand. I feel like the move away from that has hurt a lot as far as like especially when you reboot a comic book every couple of years back to number one. And somebody was like, well, people don't read it after, if it has issue 600, people find it intimidating. It's like, well, that's where your trades and your collections come in. Like you stick on the back cover a trade ad that's like, if you want to find out the backstory, here are the trades that you buy. Well, what do I know? I'm just somebody who used to buy comics all the time and stopped. So. Yeah, Titans did. And I think a lot of that, and this is the same reason I think during that time, the X-Men were better than Avengers as far as the dynamic, is because there were no sort of big name stars other than Robin, of course. But who became Night, and this is part of why he became Nightwing, was that they no longer had to share him with Batman. And he could have some character growth in Teen Titans. But it's the whole, like, when you have a group of characters who just, their only book, the only continuity is what's within your book, you can really sort of dig into the characters. You can do big changes to them because you're not having to keep them sort of, keep a certain status quo. And you can actually have stuff impact them in your story. Whereas with Justice League, you can't really have, at the time anyway, you couldn't have some big story in Justice League where, like, Superman has this really big thing happen that's going to impact him for 2 or 3 years, because that might not fall in line with what these Superman comics are going to be coming out. They don't want the extra continuity to work in. And so, you know, it makes excuse me, it makes sense. Which is why I think for me in the late 80s, early 90s, when we were in the Justice League International era, where Justice League was pretty much all sort of B and C listers who didn't have their own title anymore, it was way more fun because they could, you know, like Justice League Europe, it had some really great stories that I really liked. You know, and there were stories that they could tell with, like, the Silver Sorceress and Blue Jay and the Crimson Fox that they couldn't have told if they had Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman there, because, you know, you can't really change those characters, and you can't have big. Power Girl was on the team at that stage, and it was the only book she was in, so they were able to do some really cool stuff with Power Girl. I think to this day, the issues of Justice League Europe that Power Girl was in at that time are probably among my favorite Power Girl stories. And just because they had creative freedom to really, like, work on her as a character. And so, oh, comic books. There's so much to them.
I miss just buying the floppies sometimes. Like, trades are fun and all, but give me that, like, monthly little hit.
I'm a little bit of both. I sometimes like having sort of like the collection so I can sit down and read the whole thing. There are other times where I like reading it month to month and getting to the end and having to wait 30 days for the next chapter. Yeah, Blue Beetle and Booster Gold were really good. I think for me, with the shift that happened when I was buying monthly books was when it was clearly written for trades, where it's like 6 issues of it were like 1 issue of old comics. Like, you know, and like you're not getting a full story each issue. You're getting a couple story beats, a bunch of splash pages, and oh, we're done till next month. And then you have to hope that the artist, like, can stay on time and your book isn't late, and, you know, it just became easier to wait for trades. Because it was to a point where I wasn't even actually, for some stuff, I wasn't reading it every month. I would pick it up every month, and then I would wait for the storyline to be over, and then read it all at once. Because otherwise it was just unfulfilling and sort of boring. Like, great, 4 pages of actual story, a bunch of splash pages, and wait for next month. So I also miss when there were like thought bubbles and not every comic was told in first person. Like, that's also weird to me that almost every comic now is told from somebody's like actual thoughts, and like I sort of miss the day of omnipresent narrator and thought bubbles that sometimes took up an entire panel on their own. I get kids don't like that. That's not what they want from comics, but when I see those posted and people are like, oh my God, look at all the thought bubbles. That's so old. It's like, yeah, but back then you'd spend $1 for a comic and get a whole story in that issue. All right, there we go. It's looking pretty good, I think. Yeah, and that's exactly sort of why I started waiting for it. This is the other thing I don't like about sort of modern comics. And again, this could be old fogey, but I don't like that everything has to be real. I don't read comic books for realism. So, like, whenever people are like, that's not very realistic, it's like, right, it's a comic book. It's not why we're reading this, people. But again, everyone's need for comics is going to be a little different. So I try not to begrudge them. And I just, other than when we're on here talking about it, Chris, I don't really complain a lot about it's like you and Andrew come on and it's like I complain about comics, but really I don't. And I miss my era of comics where it's like I was really into them. And I think I'm going to end up once I get the studio set up and I can start getting all my long boxes organized and have access to my comic books again, I will probably start picking up back issues to close off, to finish up collections and get full runs and stuff. Because, I have only a few Wonder Woman issues missing to have a complete Silver Age through the New 52 single issue run of Wonder Woman. And I would like to have that sort of completed. So. I also feel cheated that McFarlane, despite all the repaints, never gave us a proper flare collar Nightwing.
Right.
And he could have reused that body for Dead Man.
He already has a Dead Man.
Does he have a superpowers Dead Man?
Well, not superpowers. No,
yeah, that's
right.
what I meant with superpowers.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things I was going to do was pull down my Funko 3 3/4 inch Teen Titans Nightwing for reference, but I didn't.
Yeah, I think, well, here's the thing. Okay, so here's the thing. Nobody get mad at me. I didn't like Dark Knight Returns. And I've read it a couple times thinking, oh, I'm older, I'm more mature now, I'll like it. Nope, I just don't like it. I don't like that take of Batman. I don't like that. I don't like superheroes in that form of nihilistic, depressed, like, grimminess. It's too grim, it's too bleak. Even Batman, as gritty as Batman is about hope. Every time Batman punches the Joker, it's about the hope of preventing the Joker, even though he should kill the Joker. But there's a hope to Batman, even though he's dark and grim. Batman keeps going because he has hope that one day he will save the people. And if he can't save all the people, he can save one person. Whereas I felt like with The Dark Knight Returns, there was none of that hope. It was just very bleak. It was very depressed. And that's fine for a take. I just don't think that needed to work over to mainstream Batman. Watchmen I'm fine with because Watchmen was Alan Moore before he completely turned into a jerk, sort of dissecting superhero comics and doing a very particular take. And I enjoy Watchmen. I really liked the HBO series of Watchmen. I thought it was really, and it was a really cool way of taking Watchmen and doing something different with it that wasn't just regurgitating the original comic book again. But I don't think Watchmen needed to become what regular comics were. Watchmen was something different, and I think everything going so dark and so bleak for me hurt comics over time because I need the escapism of it. So
Right, and that's, I mean, that alone is half the reason I'm really excited about the upcoming Superman movie, is the promise of hope.
yeah, and I think and this is a good point. Like Scott McCloud saw it, there was a lot of and this is I think why I still enjoy comic books as a medium and still read comics even though I'm not sort of in it like I used to be. The beauty to me about comic books is it's a medium that you can tell any kind of story in. It seems comic books are sort of pigeonholed as like superheroes. But like I've read some really good horror comics. I've read I'm not sure if any I'm gonna assume that at least two of you in the comic I'm gonna assume Largo has at least heard of it. And Alex probably has. But there's sort of indie comic by looking it up. It's Terry Moore, Strangers in Paradise. Why couldn't I? It kept wanting to say Terry Pratchett, but that's not the right Terry. Strangers in Paradise. Like, there's not really a single superhero in it. I think there was one point where he did like some humorous superhero style covers and gave them suits just sort of to like make fun of just sort of make commentary, I guess, on it. I really like that series though, and it's like it's not your typical comic book. I really like, despite Alan Moore being a jerk, I really like Promethea, and I like a lot of what Grant Morrison does. I'm in a very weird, conflicted place right now about Neil Gaiman, but Neil Gaiman also sort of took the concept of comics and did some really cool stuff with it. He also did some stuff that was really typical. Like they've all done typical comic book stuff as well. So
yeah, I was gonna say, Grant Morrison did a graphic novel called Joe the Barbarian that is just incredible.
No superheroics at all. No actual barbarians to be found.
Right. You have to check it out. I like Morrison. Their stuff is really good.
Well, the plot is
A kid has low blood sugar, and it's his quest to get some sugar in him.
And you know what? If anyone else but Morrison was writing that, I would probably be like, that's going to be terrible. But because it's Morrison, it's going to be...
I mean, that's the oversimplistic version. That's like calling Star Wars the story about a guy who murders everyone because he didn't get a job promotion.
Well, that kind of is, though. Yeah.
So,
but yeah. Oh yeah. Well, as far as The Distant Soil, by Colleen Doran, she is wrapping up I'm one of her Patreon supporters. She is wrapping up her work on the Good Omens crowdfund graphic novel. And she's going to take a little bit of well-earned downtime because not only has she been working sort of nonstop for years, but she also recently had some cancer stuff happen. Full recovery, she's fine. But she's going to take a little well-earned downtime, and then she's going to wrap up A Distant Soil, and like do the entire, finish up her comic series, her space opera that she's been working on since she was 16, which is really cool. Like, so, you know, and that's part of why I joined her Patreon, because part of that is to help fund her finishing that series. So it'll be really cool after she gets her well-earned downtime. So yeah, it'll be cool. But yeah, I don't know, you know, like I've always sort of enjoyed, you know, like Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol was like one of the, I, you know, read when that was coming out. And I remember just, you know, one month it was Paul Cooperberg writing very typical superheroes of the 80s. And the next month you have like Crazy Jane and, you know, all this, just, it got so weird so quick, and it was just, I loved it. I didn't understand a lot of it because I, you know, was like 14 maybe. Yeah, I would have been like 14 whenever I started reading Morrison stuff, because that was like 88, 89, I think. Somewhere in there. You know, like middle school, high school age reading that. And it was just so different. And I remember reading a bunch of stuff I would have never thought to read, because I read an interview and he was like, I got the idea from this for this. So I'm reading like, you know, suddenly I'm like, there's more to the world than Stephen King and V.C. Andrews and L.R. Stein and Christopher Pike. And I'm reading like books about dissociative personality disorder and Nietzsche and all sorts of weird fun, you know, weird stuff that like was just not what all because of these weird comics that they were writing. So it's like, I appreciate like stuff besides superheroes, but I also, when I read a superhero comic, I don't want them to all be doom and gloom. I want, especially DC, like I can deal with sort of the bleakness over Marvel because it's always been sort of baked into it. But I just, for whatever reason, have a good day, Brick. We'll see you all around. For whatever reason with DC Comics, I just, when they all get too dark, it just makes me unhappy. Like, I don't think DC Comics is Superman should never be a dark and gritty character. Batman should only be as dark and gritty as the villain is. Like, Batman himself shouldn't be that dark and gritty. And I think that's what people, and you know, again, this is my take. I'm 100% willing to admit this is just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think despite his hard, gruff exterior, Bruce Wayne is a hopeful person, or he wouldn't be putting on a bat suit all the time. And it's okay to occasionally do that story where Bruce Wayne is questioning what he's doing. You know, am I making an impact? Should I keep doing this? You know, like, that's fine. That's normal. That's necessary for a character to grow. But at the end of the day, Bruce Wayne is a hopeful character. The hopeful character is the kind of person who would adopt Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, you know, mentor Tim Drake to help them become heroes to make the world better, because you have a hope that you can make the world better. And I feel like that gets lost whenever people go too dark and gritty with Batman.
Well, and I think that's part of the reason the Grayson run was so good, with Grant Morrison writing Dick Grayson in the role.
Right. I loved Morrison's Batman Incorporated. It was just fun, and it's everything I expect from Morrison. I expect some high concept. I expect some deep dive, comic nerd stuff that, like, you're not going to get if you didn't deep dive yourself into comics at some point. But also just a fun comic. And even when Morrison gets dark, there's still something in it that's like, there's still hope. Like, Morrison never writes anything, in my opinion, that's completely hopeless. even if every character dies, there's still some glimmer of hope at the end. Some hope for, like, some suggestion of rebirth. I don't know, Morrison's really interesting to me. Like, he's one of the few comic creators I would enjoy just sitting down with a couple cups of coffee. No, wait, I think they are going with they, them now, I think. But they are just somebody I would love to sort of sit and look that up. Make sure I'm not confusing people. Yep, Morrison is they, them now. So
Okay.
I'm probably going to slip a few times, everyone. I apologize if I do, because I've only been half paying attention to that. So
it's the first I'm hearing about it, so I know I would get that wrong.
yeah. So anyway, no offense to anyone. If I slip up, I apologize. It's just kicking in today that that's actually a thing that happens. So yeah. Anyway. Speaking of character changes that didn't last, Changeling, aka Beast Boy.
Yeah. Well, and Cyborg also went through a change shortly after that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a time where he was just Victor Stone because the Cyborg Superman had taken over the name Cyborg. They at least got Cyborg his name back, but Beast Boy is just forever Beast Boy. And I will say, I think part of the problem is, though, that Changeling wasn't a very good name for. I get where they were going with it, but I think it felt like it was trying a little too hard.
There was a period in time, I had to look it up, where Cyborg went by the name Siberian.
Yes, that's what it was. It was toward the end of the Wolfman era when he came back as like a space cyborg or whatever, and that was because of the Cyborg Superman.
Yeah.
And then Cyborg Superman just became Superman. I mean Cyborg Superman.
And then it's just confusing and don't think about
it. Yeah. Well, I mean, who is he this week? Supergirl's dad? Is he not? I don't know. Again, the whole thing where people get too high concept with really simple things. Like, it doesn't need to be complicated. Oh, wow. I'm not even going to finish this one page before the end of the day. I underestimated how long this one would take. But that's okay. This is a good one to work on next time when you come back. How are you doing on... Oh, oh my gosh. Oh, no, that's my page. Sorry.
Sorry.
I was like, oh my God, we're at the same place. And then I'm like, no, wait, Chris is...
No.
Oh, I should have done this hours ago.
Yeah, I'm on my fourth character here.
Me too. So we are pretty much in the same place. So it'll work out. You still have like 10 minutes. We'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll fly through this.
We'll get through what we get through, and then we'll work on it next time. I think I even said that when I sent you these. It's like, I don't think we'll finish either of them the first day. Yep, Gar Logan. Classic 80s angst. I gotta be the Joker and the wisecracker, or I have to think about everything that really happened. And then he fell in love with Tara.
I will say on the Young Justice cartoon, they did a nice, like, interesting, like, PTSD arc with his character.
Oh, did they? I didn't.
Yeah.
I watched the first season and did not get finish it because it like disappeared or something.
Right,
because it had 2 seasons air on Cartoon Network, a third on the DC Universe streaming platform for those who
Right.
remember, and then I think they wrapped it up on Max.
Yeah, so I think it's all on Max now, so I should just go watch it all now. But that was another one though where it's like was like, oh, I should watch this, and I'm like, where's Donna Troy? No, never mind.
Yeah, I remember them canceling Teen Titans for it and kind of going, oh, I don't know, guys.
Then they canceled Young Justice for Teen Titans Go, and I definitely knew that was a bad one.
Yeah. They did do the DC, the original animated movies are doing. They did the Judas Contract, which I watched and was not bad, but it was really weird because it was like, it was really clear they were like, well, we're going to get some people who've only ever seen Teen Titans Go, so let's sort of use that team and that for, and then at the end Tara dies and then they're like, oh look, we have a new member, it's Wonder Girl, and I'm just like, ugh. I'm like, but at least she showed up finally.
All right, could be worse. You could be a fan of Tim Drake.
Oh my gosh, right?
Half the time in extended universes, they forget he ever existed.
That's a good point. All right, let's see. There we go. I will say, yeah, she did. I actually kind of liked Titans. Was such a weird experience because like it starts out pretty bad. Not gonna lie. There was a lot I did not like about it, but it was also something where it sort of got better. And when Donna Troy does show up on it, I liked quite a bit how they handled it. Felt like it was really good representation, and they didn't try to do that thing that they sometimes do where they just, yeah, it's like Deborah Winger from the Wonder Woman show where it's like it's a new sister, and like it was actually Donna Troy. They actually like sort of tried to like make it comics close. I thought the actress was cool. Like I liked the actress. I think she did a really good job with the costume. Was not bad.
You know, the costume work on that show as a whole was pretty good.
Yeah, they did pretty good job with like. I really liked Starfire. Like I thought that was probably one of the coolest things about it was how they handled Starfire. I also helped. I think that I liked the actress who played Starfire. I felt like, yeah, they made her a little bit darker than you would want Corey to be because Corey is sort of a light, joyful character. But again, that's kind of what they do with comics now.
Well, in Titans, like you said, it starts bad, it gets bad. It's a roller coaster because there are times you think they turned the corner, they figured it out, and they don't.
But I feel like overall, like, I think a lot of what helped with Titans was most of the actors were really likable. So, like, you were able to sort of keep going because you were at least enjoying the actors and they were doing their best to do something cool. And so, but And the Starfire thing was funny because there were all this sort of the people you expect. Oh my God, they race traded her. It's like, what?
I don't know if you're aware, Starfire is orange.
She's
So
orange in the comics, so not really, not really. I remember that happening and people losing their mind, and that was when I was like, there's some people who just make up stuff to be angry about because they hate people. And because like they could have taken that woman and put her in full like gold orange body paint so that she looked just like the comic character, and they still would have lost her mind because underneath. And it was just to me it was just like she's an alien. Like there's no way to make her look unless we get bad CGI character, and it's like we don't want that. Like
right.
she was such a good actress, and she was, like I did not like some of the retcons they did with the around Raven and Starfire and how they were linked, and I think a lot of that was trying too hard.
I never watched the last season of that. I should probably do that.
Yeah, I haven't watched the last season either. I feel like they tried too hard to sort of tie them all together. But at the same time, like I at least had fun watching it. There were times where it was like very much like I'm watching something really bad and it's not good, but I'm enjoying it still. And it's okay to have those shows. So
right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I shouldn't have liked it. It was sort of a lot of the things that show did were things I hate about when they translate something to, because of where I fall in with the continuity I want. I get really mad when they mix it up. Like Superboy was never a member with any of these people. Stuff like that sort of annoyed me. But overall, like I just enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. I think that's what is missing a lot of times from superhero TV shows. It's really hard to have a good time with them because they're trying too hard. And Titans was sort of bad. And then you have the beauty that was the Doom Patrol. That was just such a good show.
And yet I need to finish that too. I watched so much of it and it was so good.
Well, what happened with that was I didn't have Max. Then I paid for Max over Christmas. Before I did YouTube, my Christmas holiday was just like 6 days where all I did was sort of sit on the couch and read books and watch TV. Now I make content. So like the last Christmas I had before I started making content, I got HBO Max and I watched Doom Patrol and caught up. I don't think the last season of Titans had been released yet, but I watched like all the DC movies that had come out. I rewatched Wonder Woman 84, which was much better on the rewatch, but I still think that movie would have been about 60% better if we had gotten a cool on-screen transformation of Kristen Wiig into the cheetah, so that we would know for sure that that was Kristen Wiig at the end of the movie, basically.
Sure.
So, but yeah, that I need to finish Doom Patrol and Titans. Maybe I'll do that my birthday week. I'm gonna take my birthday weekend off and hide out. Maybe I will do that. I finished the 3 books I'm reading that have nothing to do with toys or comic books or whatever. And catch up on some TV. And turn my phone and devices off and just give myself some time. think that sounds lovely. All right, well, we're at the 2-hour mark, so we're going to call it good, I think, because there's no way I'm going to finish this, and this is at least another 30, 40 minutes, so we will work on it next time when Chris comes back, and then I'll start this one and get it half finished. So let's really quick,
Sure.
I'm going to put you on solo so everyone can see your work. Very nice.
Yes.
And you got Donna. Very nice. I was saving her for last because that's how I roll.
Right. I was mostly saving Cyborg for last because I was just thinking, boy, that's going to be a lot of grays and silvers.
Yep, pretty much. And really quick. Oh. There we go. Excellent. So. All right, and that is that. So, really quick, Chris, where can the people find you?
I can be found at I can find me. I can be found at Shiny Plastic People, which is at SPP Toys on YouTube, Instagram, you name it, I'm probably there.
And I think, yep, there is a link to the channel in the description of this video. So go check them out if you're not already subscribed. Lots of McFarlane DC content for you there. So some good hot takes, because that's what we do here.
And you know what? Next year it'll be Mattel because I follow the DC license.
And this is true. So, all right, let's see. And then for me, where will I be? Everywhere. I've got shorts coming out this week because I have shorts. Tomorrow, yeah, that's tomorrow. Tomorrow, I've got a 1983 Barbie coloring book vintage flip through, and then I will be coloring a page from it. That drops tomorrow morning. And then next Friday, Color and Chill will be vintage Stratos Masters of the Universe cardback art. As a Patreon supporter of Adam, aka Battle Ram Blog, he shared with us a bunch of black and white art from Errol McCarthy's time on Masters of the Universe, which included a bunch of the cardbacks. So that's where that comes from. It's from original art that Errol McCarthy shared with Adam. And also, if I can finish it, there will be a Wednesday video dropping with a brief history of the Crystar toy line from Remco. It's not officially a crossover episode with Toy Geeks, but it is research that I was doing that I folded into Toy Geeks research. And then there will be a dramatization in it featuring the audio works of one Derek J. Hoover. So check it all out. Next Sunday, I will be here coloring more DC pages with Tony from Tony's Figs. So join us for that. And in the meantime, if you can be anything in this world, be a bitch. No, just kidding. Be sassy. You didn't think I was going to say be kind, did you? Please. No, just be sassy. Sass. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.